Okay, guys. So as I said, I was going to make another video with regard to was Genesis 1:14 referring to astrology, and I found out some really interesting things. So the first thing that appeared to me was it was on video that I talked about that humans were not created from incest, and I was thinking about things again, and then all of a sudden the flood from Noah came into my mind, and I had to go look at that again, and I was like, this is the second story of creation, because what God told Noah after the flood waters subsided. Remember, in the beginning, when Adam was put on, Adam and Eve were put on here, the earth was flooded. God pushed all the waters to one side, then the land was shown, and then the people were there, and he told Adam and Eve to go and replenish the earth. And that is exactly what he said to Noah and his family: go and replenish the earth. So I said, now wait a second. This flood was supposed to be worldwide. And there's Noah, his wife, and his 3 sons and their wives. How, pray tell, did they replenish the earth? And I'm like, was I wrong? Was this really incest? And I said, no, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So I said, let me just sit and meditate with this for a little bit. What I actually did was I went and I Googled, what does the Sumerian text say about the Great Flood? What does the Greek text say about the Great Flood? What does the Islamic text say about the Greek Flood? What does the Roman text say about the Great Flood? And of course, we know the story of Noah is from the Hebrew text, and they all say the same exact thing. So what I was shown was the truth in the book of Genesis, that Adam and Eve were just representatives of humanity, of men and women, that there were people all over this planet. And there is a prophetic symbolism that the man and the woman represented men and women of creation. The same exact thing was happening during the flood. Every single religion says that their God told them. Well, there is a slight difference. The other religions say that their God told them that the greater gods were going to flood the earth, and that they should build a boat, or one of them said, not a raft, it was like a box or something that they should be in. And they all landed on mountains. Every single one of them landed on mountains. When the water receded, all of their boats, their arks, the box, whatever they were told to build, when the water receded, they landed on a mountain, all of them. So once again, even with the story of Noah and his family, all over the planet, there were others in boats waiting for the waters to recede, and their gods had told them to do this, the same as Yahweh told Noah to do it. That's the difference, okay? The other difference is that for the Hebrew text, Yahweh had it raining, or the water coming down, for 140 something to 150 days. The other gods or religions are all saying it only rained like 7 days. And that was a difference that I found. There were people all over this planet. The Bible is a prophetic document for the most part. And there is symbolism all throughout this book. And this is also what I just found with this, with Genesis 1:14. Now, I had no clue really what astrology was, because I used to read I used to read my horoscope in the Daily News in New York every day, but I never studied astrology. I never went to an astrologist. I never had anybody do my astrological charts, or never. I was never into all this stuff. But I used to read in the daily newspaper. They used to have your horoscopes there, and that was the extent of it for me. I knew what my zodiac sign was, of course, and my mother actually bought me a little charm with my zodiac sign that I used to wear on a necklace. That was the extent of it. And so I didn't really understand in depth what this was all about. But I have found a video that I put in the description for you guys to help you understand what is the difference between astrology and astronomy. And there's a little bit of mixture going on here. And what I have found that has happened is that, as usual, the study of the stars and the foretelling of the seasons, as the Lord said in Genesis 1:14, it will tell the seasons, it will tell the years, it will tell signs. Understand the Star of David that told that Jesus was born. This is I'm about to read you an article. It's about two planets that came together within a constellation. And you have to understand that people in the first century and beyond, they were looking at the constellations to make calendars. You wonder why the whole entire planet was waiting to see if the world was going to end, because it was the end of the Mayan calendar, and they had been so accurate. These people had learned to read the stars and the alignment of the planets, to understand what that would mean as far as the calendar would go, as far as the weather would go, as far as the seasons would go. And this is not astrology. This is not astrology. This is still astronomy. There's also a little bit of information that when the moon is in a certain position, it has an effect on the ocean tides. Whether we have low tide or high tides, the moon's position in the sky, or whether you have heard this, that the full moon affects people's mood, and some people go crazy during a full moon. It does, in fact, affect people that way. So there are mysterious energies at play here that humans don't really understand, and it has all been perverted to where these people are looking at the alignment of the planets and the constellations as the forces behind what is going to happen in a person's life, depending on what day and time they were born. And so, in other words, they are looking at the planets and the stars as if they are gods. And this is absolutely divination and idolatry. So this is why we are not to look at horoscopes. We are not to go to astrologers and delve into astrology. But in astronomy, there is the study of the placement of the stars. There is the study of the constellations. There are 12 constellations, which I think it's in this article, 12 constellations that actually correlate to the 12 tribes of Israel. And these things were understood back in the first century, and it's all been perverted. It's all been perverted and darkened. So now the study of astrology is divination, and they look to the planets and the stars as if the stars and the planets are the ones that are causing situations and changes in people's lives. Not that it's God doing it, that it's the stars and the planets doing it. So this has become idolatry, and it is divination, and it is an abomination before the Lord. So I'm going to read this article to you. It made very good sense to me, and I put it in the description for you guys. So this is from the site called Biblical Hermeneutics. And it says, does Genesis 1:14 talk about astrology? I'm intrigued by the fourth day of creation, where the heavenly lights were made for signs and seasons. Astrology comes to my mind, but as far as I know, the Bible condemns astrology. Genesis 1:14 ESV, and God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Astrology is the belief that the heavenly bodies control our fate and is condemned in the Bible. But there is also astronomy, which is the science used to create calendars. And this is the important difference here, you guys. This is the important difference. The sun and the moon are for times and seasons, and a God calendar and a good calendar takes both into account. Months, even today, are based loosely on the lunar cycles. The lunar cycle takes about 29.5 days to complete, which is why months alternate between 30 and 31 days, i.e., due to the fractional 0.5. The reason we use 30/31 rather than 29/30 and have February only as only 28 or 29 is to keep the year at the 365.24 days required for the solar year. The fractional part, which goes beyond 0.24, is why we need leap year. So the calendar is a balancing act between the sun, which requires 365.24 days, and the moon, which requires months of 29.5 days. Different solutions were used in ancient calendars, such as an extra 13th month in leap years, with leap years obviously being based on a different calculation. But the basic idea has always been the same since the beginning: to use astronomy to create a calendar that balances the requirements created by the movements of the sun and the moon as they were understood at the time. Knowing what month it was very important in the Old Testament to keep the appointed feast at the right time, like Passover, Tabernacles, etc. The Hebrew calendar, as it's used today, based on rabbinical calculations, has 12 months alternating between 29 and 30 days long, with an extra 13th month on leap years. A whole month is added on leap year because the year normally has only 354/355 days in it, which means there are more days to make up to get back on track with the sun on a leap year every 19 years. And the calculation doesn't truly accomplish this perfectly. Also of interest may be the Babylonian calendar, lunar phase, and tropical year. My hermeneutic concept of astrology is that God controls our fate as he controls the movement of the planets. We can observe the positions of the planets and use these to infer the state of certain energies at the present time. Furthermore, knowing how those energies change over time allows us to determine whether the universal forces present will be working for or against our plans. I also read another article that if you are a fisherman, you need to pay attention to the cycles of the moon, because the moon also affects the fish in the sea. So there's mysterious energies at play on the earth that human beings are not truly aware of, but that the false religions and the people using divination have taken advantage of, and they're manipulating it. Furthermore, knowing how these energies change over time allows us to determine whether the universal forces present will be working for or against our plans, and help us to decide when to take or withhold action for the most positive outcome. Such as, if you're a fisherman, should you go out to catch fish when the moon is this way, or whatever they use, how they do that. It is not the case that the planets control our fate, but their positions do reflect the state of various mysterious energies, and so function as useful indicators. Certainly, this is what was meant in Genesis 1:14, when he said, "Let them be for signs and seasons and days and years." You will notice that the word signs is not needed to explain the astronomical calculations, which were separately used to mark time as described in the earlier answer. So the signs aspect of that verse actually is referring to things such as when the Star of David appeared when Jesus was born. This was a sign. And of course, God is controlling all of this. This is not the stars being gods or the planets being gods. God himself is controlling all of these things. And there are mysterious celestial energies that are present. And this is well known by everybody on this planet, that the full moon affects people's mood, that the full moon affects the tides of the ocean. And what I read in one of these articles is also certain stages of the moon, I don't know if it was the full moon, also affects the fish in the ocean. So if you're a fisherman, you have to know what the lunar cycle is. It affects a lot of things on this planet. So there are mysterious energies. God is running everything, though. So I believe that astrology actually ran with what was naturally on this planet, that the people in the first century were using to use the stars and the planets and the constellations to tell time, to make calendars. I read an article also that when the planets were in a such and such a Jupiter and another planet was in such and such an alignment, I don't know if it was King David, that King David was born, or one of the kings was born, and it was foretold that one of the kings would be born because of the alignment of whatever was going on in the constellation. So these things are able to happen, and all of the people in those days used the stars to create calendars. The way we just look at a clock or a calendar now, they used what they saw in the sky. But astrology has taken it to a dark place to say that the stars are gods or the planets are gods, and that the planets have the power to influence your life depending on what day and time you were born. And that is not the case. God is the only being that controls everything that has to do with our lives. So that is the distinction, you guys. That is absolutely the distinction. So there are such thing as signs. We've all seen them from what I've just discussed with you. The effects of the full moon on the sea, on us, on the fish in the ocean, and I don't know what else. I mean, I could have been at this for hours because I'm very interested in this. And then also, I believe the video that I have in the description for you guys, it's a person talking about Genesis 1:14, and I believe he's reading a couple of verses from Isaiah, which talks about the position of the sun and the moon, or how God is using the sun and the moon to show a sign. And God will use the planets and the stars to show signs on this planet. So this is what the Bible was talking about, and not the fact that the stars and the planets have any independent ability to influence our lives. It's false. It's false. It's divination, and it needs to be looked at as such. So you should not be looking at horoscopes or going to astrologers or anything like that. This was needed for me because, as I said, I've been through enough out here on this internet. I'm not taking anybody's word for anything. I'm doing my own research. So, and you should all be doing your own research. As I told you, we're all going to be responsible for our own path. And if somebody leads us astray, they're not going to be standing in front of Jesus with us. We're going to be responsible. So you need to do your own research and compare it to the Bible. Okay? So this is what I found. And I would encourage you guys to do your own research, even still. Go even deeper than I went. So until you fully understand this, and it's never a question in your mind any longer, and no one can talk you into going to see an astrologer or reading a horoscope. That's where you need to be. That's where you need to take this. That it becomes a belief in you, and that when you read the passage in Genesis, you fully understand what it means, and no one can try to fool you with telling you that it's not divination, because you know better. Okay, you guys, be blessed. Have a good day.